Hello, you are watching a special episode of The Approachable Agent. Now, I was going to try to do this as a live, but I'll be really honest, I'm feeling vulnerable still, and I thought I might actually get quite emotional if I did it as a live. So to make it as helpful for you as possible, I thought best do a recording. I'll pop it up on YouTube and then I'll share it. Now, today's episode is not actually about a question that I've got, but it is directly related to conversations we've been having about agents and about how to find a good one for you. And there was one particular sentence that I shared recently about choosing an agent and then making it sort of be fine that breakups happen, both on the part of the agent as well as the writer all the time. I mean, hopefully you find a great match straight away. But sometimes even if you do find a great match, one or the other of you can outgrow or become dissatisfied with the relationship. And that just happened to me. Today I had one of my ongoing or longer term clients who we had a bit of a pause as business changed for me, and then I was back to submitting work for her, and we had a parting of the ways today on her instigation. I was shocked. I wasn't necessarily seeing that coming, but of course I actually really wish her well. So I want to take you through the steps of how to handle rejection, not just from an agent, but perhaps a publisher that you thought you were a really good match for, a really good shot. And to be honest, this is the role that I play as middleman between my writers and publishers, right? So I should be quite used to it, but it doesn't happen to me a lot, I'll tell you. But I wanted to share the parts that I thought, God, it's so relevant, because this is the part that people don't talk about. I mean, it's all business and it's not personal. And whilst all of that is true, it is totally normal to have feelings about it. And I did bring up the other day in that video one of my clients who had been with another agent and had switched over to me. And it really rang out in my mind too, her process of breaking up with the other agent before coming to me and getting that feedback from her on how that other agent responded and whether that aligned with what she was expecting to get. And so I was trying to be really mindful today, not just about how I was feeling, but what that now former client might be feeling. So how do you handle rejection? This is my way of how you might handle rejection. So the first tip is feel it. It's okay and totally normal to feel a little bit of a gut punch, especially if it was unexpected. You thought things were going well, or you really wanted them to be going well, and then somebody breaks the news that, you know what, they're going in another direction, and they don't think that they want you along for the ride anymore. Even if they're really kind about saying it and all of that, it still can be a gut punch. And so give yourself permission first to feel. And I've done that. And now I've kind of entered the second part, or I'm a little bit past that. The second piece of advice is reflect. Now, as I've said before, and I'll keep saying, especially when it comes to an agent or even a publisher, it is not personal. In this case, and this is really where I want you to see that there are two separate things that we're talking about. It's not personal, and there could actually be some good feedback for you on either the way you approached things or not necessarily living up to expectations that they had, or vice versa. So this second step, reflect, is just taking that time to say, not judging, but what could I maybe have done differently? If they haven't told you why, right? In a lot of breakups, they don't necessarily say why. They just say, hey, it's not you, it's me, and I'm moving on and all of that. And that may be true as well. That's probably true as well, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't glean some information that might help you in your ongoing relationships or your next approach to an agent or a publisher. And that means I've really spent a little bit of time saying, how may I have not shown up the way that that client or that writer needed me? And some of the things I'm able to change, and some of the things I will say, yeah, I probably just couldn't. And that was always going to happen, right? When I had that conversation about the different types of agents and choosing the one that you thought would fit with your personality, that's one of those things. Maybe that agent never was going to be able to fill that particular need. Maybe you didn't even know you needed it at the time, and that's okay. But right now, and I've spent a bit of time reflecting on what could I have done better? How could I have been clear in communication or hit certain targets or whatever else? And some of those things, they weren't surprising to me, but on reflection, I can really see that there are some gaps that I'd really like to strive to fill, especially for my current clients, so that they don't get to that place where it's an easy, or seemingly, from my point of view, an easy decision for them to make to part ways. The third stage or tip that I have is then to forgive. And you might have heard about this a lot, but it's not always in anger type scenarios, or, you know, if there's some violence befalls you or family or something like that. But forgive yourself for, you know, missing the mark, and forgive if you have any sort of outstanding emotional issues with the other person. Forgive them for not showing up the way that you needed them to, or not holding up their side of the bargain if that's there. And right now, I'm mostly just forgiving myself. I don't really feel I have anything to forgive my client for. But for me, I'm going to forgive myself for all of the ways that I didn't necessarily live up to the standard that I would like to set for myself. I'm forgiving myself. There are many ways that you can do it. There are amazing meditations, and I suggest you can Google or YouTube some of those. How do I practice self-forgiveness? And the final step is to let it go, right? We don't need to hold on to these things and continually revisit the ways that maybe we didn't live up to some expectation that we had of ourselves, or how a relationship didn't work. Eventually, once you've gone through those first 3 steps, it's time to let go, right? So that you can then be present for all of the continuing relationships that you have in your life, and any new relationships that you'd like to form in your life, be it with agents or publishers. And so letting go can often be assisted by doing things like tapping. If you've heard of tapping, or also called EFT, that can be a really handy, direct way to allow yourself to finally let go of something. But again, Google or YouTube, or if you already have a meditation practice or a therapist that you talk to, but just do something. Maybe it's something as simple too as writing it all down, getting all the rest of it out on paper, and then burning it in a safe place in a sink, or outside in the sand, or a fire pit, or something like that. And then watch, if you're doing the burning, watch the smoke go up, the flames go up, and watch the ashes sort of disintegrate, and allow all the feelings with that to go. And know that anything you needed to learn from that process and that perceived rejection, anything you needed to learn will stay with you, and everything else is free to leave. I'm almost to that point. I think I'd like to do some more forgiving and then I'll move on to the letting go a little bit later tonight. I hope you appreciate the tips that I've given you, and that you can add those to whatever process that you have as you're going about submitting your manuscript and your query to agents and publishers. You know, of course, you can transfer this to your relationships with anybody in your life, with any sort of parting of the ways or breaking up. But anytime we get that feeling of rejection, it's really important not to stuff it away or push it away, but to try to get what we can out of it without apportioning blame, but really being as objective as possible so that we can learn and move forward and be better people and better writers, in my case, a better agent and a better coach, and then just keep going, because perseverance wins in this writing game. If you have any further questions, I would love to see those in the comments. That would be wonderful, because I would love to keep addressing sort of the emotional and psychological side of this process. I'm just recognizing today that maybe we don't spend enough time talking about it, and it's definitely a conversation worth having. Thanks for checking in today, and I will talk to you again next time. Bye.